Welcome to MamaFuel, the podcast that fuels every mama's heart, soul, mind, and body, and hopefully sparks a few dreams along the way. I'm Anne Ferguson, Chief Nurturer and Mama Mentor at the Centered Mama Project, and your host for this podcast. I'll be sharing real, raw, and often funny conversations with beautiful mamas from around the world to remind you that you're not alone and that you're doing amazingly on this wild journey of being a gorgeous woman shepherding small humans as they make their way on our beautiful planet. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the MamaFuel podcast. I am so glad to have you on the other end of these earbuds because today's guest is someone who, every time I talk to her, fills my heart to bursting with joy and energy, and I just want to go do a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm delighted to come today to talk to the inimitable energy source that is the one and only Suzy Ashworth. Suzy is, brace yourself, a Hay House author, a TEDx speaker, founder of the Calm Birth School. She's also a mindset and messaging coach. She supports women to work with more intention, to create more impact and income in the world. And in her spare time, she is mama to 3 beautiful children, ranging in age, maybe raging was an intentional, who knows, ranging in age from 20 months to 14 years. She's also a phenomenal font of wisdom, kindness, warmth, and she's funny as hell. One of the things that I love about Suzy is that she is a straight-talking, real woman and mama who is not afraid to say things like they really are. So if you were in a room with me, I would invite a huge round of applause for Suzy. So welcome, Suzy. The applause is raging in the ethers.
Oh, thank you so much for such a lovely introduction. I am honoured to be here. You missed out the fact that we have a dog who is going slightly bananas in the background. So if you're hearing her on the podcast, please accept my apologies. And it's actually 4 kids rather than 3. So
why do I have 3? Why do I have 3? Because I
my own, and then my 14-year-old is my stepson. So it's a mixed, blended hodgepodge of all the things going on.
That is right. And I can't believe I missed one because we had this conversation for anyone who listened to our Mama Minutes conversation, which you can find on the YouTube channel and I will link to in the show notes for this episode. And we had conversations about all the kids. So I had gone back and checked my notes, but obviously I was wrong. And that's what happens when you're human, right?
It happens.
You make mistakes. So tell us, Suzy, about how life is right now.
Hectic is how life is right now. So I am running 2 businesses, and my husband and I have just set up a new property company. So it feels like life is just hitting me at all angles. And then obviously all of the kids and the dog, and just trying to remember that I'm a human being in my own right, outside of businesswoman, mum and sister and friend and all of that stuff. So it's hectic, but it's also really, really good. I feel a huge amount of appreciation. I'm kind of often pinching myself like, this is the life we've created. So yeah, it's hectic, it's full on. Sometimes it's a bit like, I don't even know who I am anymore. I took my son to school. I took all the kids to school, but I dropped my son off and I was trying to tell the receptionist who was going to be picking him up. And I'd forgotten the name of his friend's mum. She asked me what year he was in, and I was like, and then she asked me something else, and I was like, I don't know who he is. And she was like, no, your son. And I was like, I don't know who he is. I don't even know who I am. It was kind of, it was ridiculous. So that is how my life is quite a lot of the time. And then on the flip side of that, it's being organised and getting shit done and doing all of the things. So it's a mix, which is good, which is good.
It's so good. And it sounds like, because I can see, as I'm also in the entrepreneurial worlds, we kind of circled around each other like planets in a universe. And I can see that there's been a lot going on with you from your business perspective. And I wonder how in these moments of maybe more intense and sustained pressure, which doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's pressure. Like, it is what it is. Let's just call it what it is. In those moments of more sustained and intense pressure, how do you make sure that you're fueling yourself as a human?
The first way I would answer that, and it's interesting because it's not necessarily a word that I would associate with fueling, but it really, really helps me, and that's to communicate. When I am in overwhelm and when I'm feeling like too much, I've got too much on my plate, usually it's because I'm not communicating what I need. And that communication is first with myself and the connection with myself. So asking myself, what is it that you need right now? And then it's communicating with my support network. So whether that is people on my team, whether it's my husband, whether it's even telling my kids they need to pick up their crap that they've just kind of strewn across the floor after you've had a cleaner come in. But communication is the fuel for me when things are intense and I'm on the verge of overwhelmed. So the more I communicate, the more in control I feel, because the more I know what's going on with everybody else and the more I can hand off. I can't do it. I have no desire to try and do it all anymore. I used to think that I was the only person who could do it. I no longer feel like that anymore. So I'm always, but who can help me with this? Who can help? And that massively helps. Obviously, a massage as well. That's also
a massage is great. It's great fuel because there are, the different parts of all the different parts of us. And to name a few, there's the body, there's the mind, there's the intellect, there's the soul, there's the heart, there's the curiosity, the creativity, the sensuality, the intelligence. I mean, I could just go on forever. And it's interesting what you said, that sometimes the things that actually fuel us aren't the things we think, like a hot bath or a massage, or they're all great. But I think those things only, when we talk about self-love, which I do a lot through the self-love-a-thon and my work with my clients, one of the things that comes up quite quickly is the surfacey stuff that we think about as being self-care. It's not really going to have an impact if the underlying channels aren't flowing, and communication is so huge, right? If you don't say, hey, I need help with this thing. Can you help me? Yes, no. If the answer is yes, great. If the answer is no, great. You can ask somebody else. Yeah. Right? But if that channel isn't flowing, no number of massages or warm baths is going to help you, because you know that you've got the storm brewing in the background.
Exactly. I think the other thing is switching. My natural tendency is to go into doing. And I think for a lot of people who are new to business or transitioning or just stepping into something new, often analysis paralysis stops you from doing stuff. And the fear of getting it wrong stops you from doing stuff. And so it is important to kind of give yourself a kick up the backside to start doing. But for me, I'm very good with fear. I can walk alongside it. I can deal with the uncomfortable sense that you get when you're walking alongside fear. But I tend to go over the top in my doing when I'm feeling the overwhelm or, so I have to really look, who is it that I need to be? And so my self-care comes in not going to bed really late. So I thought about this just this morning. I've been in a cycle of self-sabotage where I've been going to bed late, so I can't get up in the morning. If I can't get up in the morning, I can't do my journaling or go for a walk or do my meditation. And all of that stuff really sets me up for how I deal with the challenges, how I deal with all of the things on my plate, how I keep the plates turning is by doing that self-care element, which is going to bed early so I can get up early, so I can write and think and meditate and move my body and all of that stuff. So that, while some people look at that as doing, I look at that as being. For me, the role models and the people that I look up to are people who create space in their life so that they are not always doing, which is my natural. That's where I wouldn't say I'm at peace there, but that's where I naturally run to. Let's just put this shit out. I know I can do it. And it's just like, that is not what I aspire to.
You said that, and it immediately, when you were talking about being in transition, right? Like that in those times of transition, your tendency is to do. And my experience has been as a person who's much earlier on the business building path than you are, is still, as a new business owner, founder, to do because there isn't the team around. But it also immediately brought to mind my early days as a mom, where when I became a mom, I didn't have family around me. I was living in Barcelona, and I plunged into I had PTSD. I didn't realize, but it was around my surgery, and referred back to something that had happened, a surgery I'd had when I was very young, and hadn't been told I'd need to learn to walk again, hadn't been told I couldn't cough, sneeze, move my legs without it being agonizing in my stomach. Like all of this stuff had come back. And in that transition into motherhood, so dealing with the PTSD and the postnatal depression, which hit me like a truck and nobody helped with for whatever reason, that need to do instead of just being that new mama, instead of just being in that spiral of depression and just letting it heal, was no, gotta get up, gotta get out, gotta walk, gotta go to this place, gotta take the baby, gotta do. And it would have probably been helpful to do what you've said at the very beginning of this call, which is to say, okay, who can help me? And fortunately, I had someone else outside look at me and go, you need this person to come and help you. And she was a beautiful woman from the Philippines, Florita, who we're still in touch with and I adore. And I literally credit her with saving my life and teaching me how to be mama to this new baby, because she had been a nanny for 40 years of her life, was the oldest of 11 kids. Like she just knew this deal, right? Inside out and backwards. And she taught me, and she was like, 4 hours a day, I've got this. Like feed her when I get home, when I get there, and feed her before I leave, and you're done. Like it's the rest of the time is yours. And having that space to be, and that grace that was in a way, I was going to say enforced. It wasn't enforced upon me, but there was this woman who knew so much better than me how to do this thing that I was supposed to just naturally, because the child had come out of my body, know how to do. I didn't know how to do it. And then all the guilt and all the shame and all the stuff that came with it. But she was giving me this incredible gift, 4 hours every day to just be me. And that took a lot of work. Like just being me in postnatal depression with PTSD was a full-on experience, right? And so there's real value in everything that you're saying, but there's particular value, I think, for mums to take that message and lay it over whatever phase they're at in mothering, that it's okay for us to look around and say, okay, who can help me with this? Like you, who can help me with this school pickup today? I don't remember her name, but she's coming to pick up. She's coming to the lady. She's kind of like, I don't even know what she looks like, but she's coming. It'll be fine. It's all good. So that one, like asking for people who are around you to help. Or my husband and I are going away in April around my birthday. And I went and asked one of my oldest daughter's schoolmates, her mom, if my oldest daughter can spend the weekend with her. She's going to be 11. It's the first time I've done that. And I'm like, yes, it's taken 11 years. But now being able to look around and go, hey, since we have no relatives here, all the people, can you help? And if they said no, then it's okay. We would have gone to the next person. And can you talk to me a little bit, because we touched on this in the MamaFuel discussion we had as well. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you navigated, or maybe still navigate, that creation of space for you in the context of dog is not a negligible thing. I have one too. He'll probably come home and start groveling at the door because it's closed. Dog, 4 kids, 3 businesses, love life with your husband, sister. Well, you have 4 kids, so somewhere at some stage, times at least. Yeah. As your kids are calculating, they're probably like, yeah, it's only happened 3 times. Yeah. My kids are still checking their link. So
did you have sex?
Yeah.
We're like, yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the only time, right? Well,
that makes you feel better. Yeah.
So how have you navigated, has guilt been a factor for you? If so, how have you navigated that creation of that sacred space for you so that you can open that channel of communication with yourself first before?
Yeah. So I think that the basic thing is actually just going to bed. So when I'm in the doing phase, it's really easy. I've been much better, I would say, over the last year or so since my team has increased. But I would put the kids to bed and then I would work until midnight or so and then go to sleep. It was just, so I was always running on empty. When I'm on my game, going to bed at 10 o'clock so I can get up between 4 and 5, I love that. So it freaks a lot of people out. I've been fortunate. My kids have all slept, so I've had that space to do that. Whereas some people, they get up, they try to do the miracle morning and they're like, I got up at 5 and then my kid was up at 5:05. And, that's hard. Yeah. And the reality is if you have a child that doesn't sleep or they get up, you're co-sleeping. So at the moment, our youngest is in our bed. She needs her own bed. So she's waking up a lot earlier. So again, that does impact how I can do my mornings. But going to bed early is the key to that for me. How we've done it with my husband and I is, and it's taken 3 years to get the business into a space where we've given ourselves permission to do it, but is to go away. It is, we went to Vegas in December, which was amazing. Just having this Saturday, we're going out for a friend's birthday. Our intention at the beginning of the year was to make sure that once a month we're spending quality time together on our own. So it's planning. It's discipline, it's prioritizing.
Does guilt play a factor now, or did it at any stage? Because
guilt plays a factor all the time. Guilt plays a factor all the time. I think the difference between myself and many of the women that I work with is that I know that the guilt is bullshit and I don't choose to sit in it. And I'm really clear on so one of the things I've done, which probably came from a place of guilt, was that I signed up to a parenting program and to get some more skills around, because if you feel that you don't know, then you go to somebody that does know. Yeah. Can you help me with this, please? So I have these parenting classes once a week, and that's been really helpful in one, understanding where my kids are, but 2, understanding my value and what I bring to the table. And there haven't been so many strategies, or this is how you deal with somebody who doesn't want to go to bed. It's not been that, but it's been about how to deal with yourself, which has really been beautiful with the work that I teach on a daily basis anyway. But guilt always comes up. I think the other thing is that I really look at, I feel that my job as a mother is to role model for my kids. It's not to protect them from every nasty thing in the world. It's not to make everything perfect or try and fix everything for them. And I think that a lot of the guilt comes from when mums are like, I'm not there all the time. I'm not there. It's not our job to be there all of the time. I think that it's our job to be present when we are there and not be going in a minute, in a minute, in a minute, in a minute. And you can only do that by getting the support and help that you need. Really, really tough for single parent mums. Yeah. Really, really tough if you don't have a supportive partner. I don't have any magic answers for that. It's just tough. Yeah. But, when I feel guilty about the fact that, I have chosen a different path to what many women do. I also think, my job is to be the custodian. It's to role model what being a strong, powerful, financially independent woman is, and be a mum.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not mutually exclusive.
No, they're so not. And they also, they don't have to come, as you were saying, the guilt is crap. They don't have to come swathed in layers and layers of guilt or shame for wanting to do something other than being mom. Yeah. So particularly, I'm not a single mom, but I solo mom. So my husband will come home for 36 hours, 48. Sometimes he's home for like 3 days, which is, he left this morning. Then he's coming back on Wednesday night. And the girls are like, oh, so you're only gone 2 nights. Oh, okay. And he's here until Sunday. So that's like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 5 sleeps that daddy's actually going to be home, and for us, that's really massive.
Yeah.
But you're right. The reality is it is hard. Okay. So then how do you, if it's hard and you're in those situations with your single mom, or if you're a solo mom, or if you're widowed, or whatever the situation is, if you have that and you're also enclosed in that wanting so much to appear strong on the outside and wanting to not burden anyone or bother anyone and not wanting to look vulnerable, then you're screwed. You're trapped, right? Versus what you obviously are good at doing, which is saying, okay, 4 kids, a dog, a husband, 3 businesses. That's a lot. Let's look and see, what can I ask for help on? Yeah. Where can I get the help? And if you're listening on to this through your earbuds and you're thinking, yeah, well, that's all fine because you have family around or you have money to pay for whatever. There are always solutions. There is always a 16-year-old down the street who maybe you can trust to look after your kids for an hour while you nap in the house. Like, you don't even have to leave. You can stay there and nap if that works for you. Or there'll be a neighbor. For a while, I had one of my neighbors, I went to ask if her daughter would walk the dog. And she said, you know what? She's got a lot going on and she's got exams and this show and I wish I had a dog. Can I walk him? And I was like, if I hadn't asked the question, I never would have had the free dog walking that I had, and she's lovely. And so now I know one of my neighbors. Like, there are ways. I can hear him grunting. So my apologies if you hear the, he's outside. But if I let him in, it'll be all like, little dingling and he'll come and try to get on the podcast with us. But there are ways of getting yourself out of that, that glass. I often imagine a glass tower. So if you imagine it like a medieval castle having those corner towers. So I see those of us, and I know this because I've had my own that still gets thicker and thinner with time. You're in this really thick walled glass tower. You can see outside and people can see you and they can see that you look fine and you're working hard on looking fine, but actually inside you're trapped and you can't get to the outside and they can't get to you either. And it doesn't help you or your kids, or if you have on your business or your relationships or your dog, or, it just.
Yeah. This happened just a couple of weeks ago. One of my clients, she's a single mom, her ex-partner is not very supportive. She had no time to clean up her house, which was going to be an open house. She was selling it. She was like, I've got no one to help. And I just said, put a post out on Facebook, ask if there is somebody who can look after the kids for an hour or 2. And within an hour, she had 3 offers. And she was in that space of, I've got no one can help me, no one can help me. But she hadn't asked the question.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just asking the question.
And I would love to know, on the back of that, what is your experience, both personal and with all of the women that you work with? Because you've got the Calm Birth School that you created, your own amazing birthing experiences, and now you help women who have baby-related businesses create their own businesses, and you help other entrepreneurs live a more purposeful, live a more purposeful and effective life that then helps them earn more income. That means then that they can have different kinds of impact in the world. When you work with all of these women, how have you found that they negotiate, or how have you negotiated that process of going from, I don't want to be a burden, I'm worried about what other people will think, because we all I don't care who you are, at some stage we'll be wondering, what will people be thinking and how will they feel? What will they think of me? To getting to the stage of saying, hey, I need help. Yes, no, and being vulnerable and being okay with that vulnerability. How did you negotiate that process if you had to, and how do you see or help your clients negotiate that?
For me, this is going to sound quite woo, but I had quite
woo.
I had quite a epiphany, and I had spent some time reading 6 Months to Six Figures, which is not woo at all. It's, it's written by a guy, some aggressive book about building business. That was the book that I was reading at the time, and I was combining it with another course that I had written, and I think that I was writing down the stories that were related to me not being able to earn 6 figures in 6 months. And one of the stories was that I have to do it all alone, and I have to do it all by myself. And what that triggered was me looking back at my life. Well, it makes me feel quite emotional just thinking about this. And me looking back at my life and looking at all of the places that I had been supported. I thought I was doing it all on my own, but down to the fact that I was fostered, the fact that I was fostered by amazing people, the fact that I went to a great primary school, the fact that I then passed we do a thing called the Kent test, the 11 plus, when I was 11, when I went to a great grammar school, the fact that I had these beautiful circle of friends, the fact that even when I made really stupid, idiotic mistakes, I had always been protected. And I just kind of looked at my entire life and all of the seeming mistakes and errors, just how everything had always unfolded in my favor sooner or later.
Yeah.
And I was just able to look at my life differently. And the big thing of the passing of my foster parents when I was 19 and 22, and just realizing, oh my God, I am completely and utterly supported. And then I read another book by Anita Moorjani called Dying to Be Me.
Such a good book.
She talks about universal energy and love and connection, and that again put everything that I had been thinking and just slowly starting to unfold again into even sharper focus. And that's just what I teach. For me, realizing that I am fully supported, it took a load off.
Yes. Yeah.
It just lightened. It's like, I'm not doing this all on my own. I don't have to know all of the answers. I just have to take the next step.
Yeah.
And by hook or by crook, everything is going to work out fine for me. And that became one of my affirmations. Everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me.
Yeah.
Smallest actions realize the most amazing responses, because I'm just lucky like that. And that was an affirmation that I said over and over again. I started saying it to my tribe, and my tribe started saying it. Everything is always working out for me.
Yeah.
And I explained the concept of the interconnection.
Yeah.
And us all working together. And all we have to do is to be in alignment. Really try and let go of the crap, let go of the stories. If I don't do it, nothing's going to get done. It's a story.
Yep, total story. And the guilt piece is also a story. And you were saying the shoulds earlier, right? Like all of the things that we think we should be doing that are stories that other people have carried from gifts that they were given, if we can call them gifts, stories that they were given that they didn't carry, that they didn't pass on, not through any wanting to be unkind or to burden us or whatever. And also stories that we make up. I was listening because I listen to this kind of stuff all the time. It's so fascinating to me how our minds work and how that affects the outcomes of our lives and how it affects our emotional experience and our felt body experience of everything. And listening to experts on early childhood talking about how we make decisions about our value and our worth from seemingly inconsequential comments, throwaway comments that our parents make that they don't even remember, and for us are so deeply scarring that they just pierce the very core of our being. And I know as I watch my kids, sometimes I'll say things and I'll think, oh, what if that's a thing? The fear kicks in and the story kicks in of, oh my goodness, I've just damaged my child because I've just said.
And I love this because I have said so many things that I wish I'd never said. But part of the mindset I have is that we all choose this journey.
Yes.
And part of the journey is unpicking the stuff, is waking up. And so it's my job to say things that are not always great. I just said something horrible. Yay! Something for them to unpick. But, it's just part of the process. Yeah. How can anybody wake up if everything you have done is to leave them in this perfect bubble? They have no idea of what true intention can create if you've left them completely shielded. You have to have contrast. Yeah. You can't have light without dark. You can't know what true goodness is if you've never seen anything that's bad.
Yeah.
You can't do that. So
there's no gain without loss, right? We had a situation this weekend where my youngest daughter had to make a choice, and it was a choice between two amazing things, and both involved commitment to other people. And she made a choice a week ago that she was going to commit to the larger group and she was going to do that thing. And I organized it so that she could still do half of what she wanted to do with the smaller group because it was her really closest friends. But then she would leave kind of halfway through and then come and go through with what she had committed to the rest of the group. I didn't go pick her up from the thing that she was supposed to come home from. My husband did. And I left my phone at home. And so he was calling me. And I think it's the first time in probably 4 years I've forgotten my phone somewhere. I have it with me all the time. And I didn't, by fluke. And she decided not to follow through with the thing she committed to the larger group. So she's let down like 20 people. And she stayed with her closest friends, which I totally get, right? Mm-hmm. I totally get that. And she now, age 8, is really sweating and saying, I can't go back to this activity. I can't go back to these people because I let them down, and I can, and I can, and I can. And so we're having these beautiful conversations about, well, every choice involves gain and loss. And we were talking about vulnerability and asking for help earlier. Doesn't asking for help involve gaining support, help, and true connection, and loss of the veneer, the pretense, the image of, whatever the reputation is that you might be trying to protect or whatever? You're losing part of that, but look what you're gaining. Okay, but you might be gaining something less and losing something more. It's all kind of easing itself out in the wash.
It's a give and receive cycle. You have to give something away in order to create space to receive something back in return. Whether it's money, love, friendship, whatever it is, you have to give and take. And quite often we either overgive, yes, or I'm guessing that most of the people who are listening to the podcast are going to be more overgivers than people who take. Yeah. But in order to create space, wealth, income, love, you always have to let something go.
And trust.
Yeah. And, in terms of how my clients deal with this, we talk about this so much that they, people who, we just talk about it a lot. And I'm there to remind them when they are letting their story get in front of their power.
Yes. Talk to me a bit more about that, about how you see women let story get in front of their power.
Oh, I just think we are doing it all of the time. Even I do it all of the time. Like, I genuinely believe that each of us have a purpose. And sometimes that purpose is supporting other people, and sometimes that purpose is being front and centre and leading the way.
Yeah.
And I absolutely believe that if we knew, so a lot of people sit in indecision, they sit in lack of clarity, they sit in a space where there is a lack of focus. And that is a protective mechanism, because people are scared to take the next step in case they fail. And I asked the question, if you knew you couldn't fail, what would you be choosing to do today? What would your goal be? Because often it's very different from the choices that people are making. And the problem with not choosing the thing that you would do if you knew that you couldn't fail is that you are not in complete alignment with the smaller, safer option. And what the smaller, safer option does is, whilst logically it makes sense, practically you still don't do the work.
No.
Because it's not driving you.
It's not. And you said something really interesting, which is, you know, the choices that you're making. And I would posit that it's even deeper than that, in the sense that most of us don't even make choices because we are on autopilot for our day. So, you know, if we're at home and we're maybe a freelancer, we're working from home, or we have a job that's flexible and allows us to, you know, be part-time working at home or whatever it is, you're kind of, I'm home, so the washing machine, you know, I'm going to just chuck a load in the laundry, and you kind of do like this, all of this autopilot stuff because you should be doing it, instead of being really firm and protective of your space and your time for work, or really firm and protective of your space and time for journaling and walking in nature. And I think it's even harder for that stuff. You know, the journaling, the meditations, the affirmation, the walking in nature, the lying in the sunlight just because it's there. You know, those kinds of things, we are not making choices. We're not.
I think that autopilot is a choice. I think that choosing on a Sunday to not look at your diary for the week and saying, here's my non-negotiable time for that, here's my non-negotiable time for this, here's the time where I need extra space, here's the time where I'm going to say no if anybody puts anything else on my plate. All of those are choices.
Yes.
Even I don't know is a choice. Choosing to not move forward with the program because you're unsure is a choice.
Yes.
Choosing not to invest in a mentor. You know, we're always choosing, and your choices are either working in your favour for your growth and expansion, or the opposite. It's keeping you small and allowing you, giving yourself permission to shrink. And I see it all of the time. You know, what people pay me for is to call them out, really, when they are listening to their own bullcrap. And the really interesting thing is that we make up such convincing stories.
Oh, they're so good.
And particularly because we talk a lot about alignment and ease and grace and flow, and it just doesn't feel in alignment for me today, so I'm not going to do it. And that one is so common. And it's really, as a coach who talks about the importance of alignment, it's one of the most challenging but most frequent conversations that comes up, because alignment comes from taking action. So when you're very, very clear on why you're doing what you're doing and how you want to show up, whether this is how you show up as a mother or how you show up in business, but when you're really, really clear on why it's so important, you then have to get rid of your to-do list and make the priorities, 3 priorities maximum. So you know that if you do those 3 things every single day without fail, you cannot help but achieve your goal. And when you say, okay, so as a mother, that means getting up at 5 o'clock so I can meditate. And even if my little baby wakes up, I do a 4-minute meditation with my baby on my lap, but I need to have silence. I need to make sure that no matter what has happened, I get the school uniform out of the wardrobe the night before. And regardless of what is happening, I have to spend half an hour when we get in from school and we do our reading together. Those three, if nothing else happens, those three things, I know that I'm showing up as I want to be as a mother, because those are important, because I'm creating space and time and I'm helping them with their development. Everything else will go out the window, but those are the three things. And then you wake up one day, or you go to bed late, and you wake up one day and I'm like, oh, I can't be bothered to get up at 5 o'clock. I'm just not feeling it today. Like,
that's the day you have to do it.
That's the day you have to do it. I don't really want to write that blog post. I'm just not feeling it. I don't really want to go live today. I'm just not feeling it. Maybe I need to be doing something else. Maybe this sign of not feeling it. It's like, do you honestly think that the people who are successful at anything wake up and want to do it every single day?
Nope.
No.
No, of course not.
You know, so how you connect is just being really connected with your what. Why are you doing this? What is the impact you want to create in the world? Then what are the things that need to happen as a non-negotiable to make that thing happen?
Yeah. And for anyone who, you know, if you're listening and you're thinking, well, I'm not an entrepreneur, I don't run my own business, everything that you're talking about, Suzy, is transferable to who and how we are, how we show up as human beings, as whole beings. If I know that my mission, my purpose is to, right now my mission is to be the most supportive daughter because one of my parents is going through a life-threatening illness or a terminal illness. And my mission right now is to be as present with my parent as possible for the time that we have left. Yeah. Then everything else, trying to hear can you hear him outside? Everything else becomes secondary to that. So if more stuff than that happens, then bonus. And the same applies to you as a mother, applies to you as a partner, applies to you as an employee, applies to you as a business owner, applies to you as whatever. You're right in saying that, you know, when I was asking you about people who are doing things unconsciously because it's just an automation, you're right. That is a choice. And there have been so many situations that I've seen where I think, well, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know what to do. And then I end up not doing a thing. And then later on, something happens and I think, oh, that's why I didn't do it. It's good that I didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And that's trusting and going with the flow. Mm-hmm. But also there are times when I think, oh, I don't know, I'm being indecisive. And actually, I'm not being indecisive. I know the answer is no. I just am not saying no. Instead of like standing in the no, saying it, owning it, and then moving on. Instead, it's like an energy leak. Be it a play date or a trip or a speaking opportunity or a business co-creation. If it's not a hell yeah, then it's no.
No. Own the no. Choose. You know, I said this earlier on in a call that I was doing. The biggest thing that holds people back from achieving whatever it is that they want is not choosing. What do you want?
Yes.
What do you want your motherhood to look like? What do you want your relationship to look like? And then taking aligned action to allow that to happen. Now, I have to say, the biggest caveat is that I say this really from a place of, I don't have all of my ducks in a row across every single element of my life. So I really do not come at this from a place of, I'm perfect and I'm always choosing. But I am self-aware enough to know when I'm not choosing. And I take responsibility for that as well. Yeah. I'm choosing, you know, one of the best things that's happened in my relationship with my husband is that I now am very, very conscious about when I'm choosing to be in a mood and how long that mood lasts for. Whereas in the past, I'd be like, I'm not in a mood. 5 days later, I'm not in a mood.
Stop telling me I'm in a mood.
You're in a freaking mood. Yeah. And it's like, now I get to own whether I'm in a mood and whether I want to talk about it or not. I get to choose how quickly to come out of that because I'm owning my feelings. This isn't about perfection, but it's having the self-awareness to know that we create everything that's going on in our lives.
Yeah.
So if there is something that you do not like, take responsibility for choosing what it is that you want and then taking the aligned action to back it up across all areas, and know that the areas where you're not doing that, life isn't going to be as rosy. That's okay if you're owning that.
Yeah, and also giving yourself the grace and the space and the knowledge that you're not going to get it right all the time. Most of the time, you're probably not going to get it right. Whatever that means. Is right, something that is a construct that's been imposed upon you by the people who raised you, by the society, by your friends, by your employer, by yourself. Oh my gosh, the fantasies that we create for ourselves as mothers, as women, as wives, as daughters, as friends, as whatever. And then there's the reality, right? And so if we are constantly, I think there's a difference between knowing what you want to live into and then going for that with intention, and seeing a fantasy that you feel you should live into and trying desperately to live into something that is a fantasy.
It isn't you.
And it isn't you, right? So even if it's something that seems like a good idea, but it doesn't, turn your pilot light on, maybe it's someone else's fantasy. But it's okay to not want to be with your children all the time. It's okay to not want to devote yourself, heart, soul, body, mind, and every single piece of your clothing down to your favorite bra to your kids. It's okay to, want to travel without them. It's okay to not like them sometimes, because sometimes they're hard to like, or their behavior is hard to like, I should say. Yeah. It's okay to fall down. It's okay to have frail moments. It's okay to admit it. It's okay. It's all okay, especially if you're coming at it from a place of intention.
You win some and you learn some. Exactly. And it's really okay to be learning every day.
We all are. All the time. Well, that is a fabulous place to wrap things up. I would love to talk to you forever. And hopefully we can do this again, because it's always so fun to talk to you. How can people find you if they would like to get some more of your insight and your wisdom and your knowledge and your straight, no BS talk?
You can come and visit me on www.suzyashworth.com, or hook up with me on Instagram, Suzy, SUZY_Ashworth, or I'm on Facebook, Suzy Ashworth 2, the number 2. I'm in all those places, so come and play. It would be lovely to hear more from you guys.
Well, it's been lovely to have you on, and I thank you so much for coming and sharing your heart and your experience and your radiant smile and your energy. It's just so nice every time that we talk. I just love it, and I leave feeling filled up. So I'm so grateful for you making the time, because I know you've got a lot on right now, and I wish you all good things with all of it.
Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
That's it for this episode of MamaFuel, the podcast. Thanks for listening. There's a lot more conversation, sharing, and real mama talk happening in our private Facebook group. To join in, go to www.thecenteredmamaproject.com/Facebook and be sure to say hello when you get there. Can't wait to see you. If you like this episode, or if you know a mama who could use a little mama fuel, I'd love you to share this episode and to rate and leave a review. Every comment helps, and it's always a delight to hear from you. Thanks, and bye for now.